Some journeys begin with careful planning, others begin by chance. Mine began on a quiet Sunday afternoon in rural Embu, when time unexpectedly became my companion.
Sunday afternoons usually followed the same rhythm. I returned home from work between 5 and 5:30, grateful for another week completed.
But this Sunday was different. I arrived home shortly after 3 o'clock, nearly 2 hours earlier than usual.
Free time is a rare gift. When life slows unexpectedly, even ordinary moments become extraordinary. I surrendered to an afternoon nap, lulled by birdsong and the comforting silence of the countryside. When I awoke, the sun had begun its slow journey toward the western horizon. Outside, the long rains had transformed the countryside into a sea of green. The cool evening breeze carried the fragrance of wet earth, fresh grass, and flowering shrubs.
I realized I had been given something priceless: time.
Rather than spend the evening indoors, I decided to walk.
Walking had become more than exercise. It had become meditation. Yet this evening I wanted more than exercise. I wanted adventure.
Many believed I belonged to the town. They were mistaken. My heart had always belonged to the village.
Every morning on my journey to work, 3 hills greeted me like faithful old friends. That evening, I finally decided to visit the one that had captured my imagination for years, Maranga Ridge. With my walking stick in hand and a heart full of curiosity, I stepped out of my compound. There was no destination beyond discovery. The road ahead promised nothing except the possibility of seeing my own village through new eyes.
The tarmac road toward Ntagaya Bridge was one I had traveled countless times. Yet without the urgency of work,
every bend revealed details I had long ignored.
Weaver birds darted between acacia branches, cicadas sang from hidden shrubs, and a cool breeze carried the scents of damp earth left behind by the long rains.
Yeah. Everywhere I looked, the countryside was alive. Maize stretched toward the sky,
and banana groves shimmered in the afternoon light.
Before me stood Ntagaya Bridge, known locally as Gachitsiro. It marked the boundary between the familiar and the unknown.
Just before the bridge, a narrow feeder road branched to the left. This was the road to Maranga Ridge.
I smiled to myself. There would be no turning back now. The road descended gently toward the valley, bordered by eucalyptus trees and wildflowers flourishing after the rains.
The long rains had transformed every hillside into a vibrant tapestry of green. Nature had painted the landscape with extraordinary generosity.
Every homestead depended upon the land. Maize, beans, bananas, and mira sustained families whose lives remained deeply rooted in agriculture. Scattered across the hillsides stood modest homes, brick walls, corrugated iron roofs, and compounds swept clean with remarkable pride. Wealth was measured differently here. Hard work, fertile land, good neighbors, and healthy families were treasures beyond price. At a roadside junction, several boda-boda riders waited patiently beneath the shade of a giant mugumo tree. Their conversation revolved around politics. One group defended the government, another demanded change, yet everyone spoke with equal passion.
Beyond the bridge, the road changed. The gentle valley gave way to a relentless climb, and I quickly realized that
Maranga Ridge would have to be earned one careful step at a time. After the long climb, the rooftops of Kathugu finally appeared before me. Nestled beneath the tower cliffs of Maranga Ridge, the little village looked peaceful, timeless, and welcoming.
Standing beneath Maranga Ridge for the first time, I understood why generations had woven legends around these ancient cliffs.
The stories I had heard spoke of mystery. What I found instead was life. Children laughing, women returning from the stream, and neighbors exchanging greetings. Thin columns of smoke drifted into the evening sky as families prepared supper. The village carried the comforting rhythm of ordinary life.
One building immediately caught my attention. Its sign proudly read, Maguna Corona Free Club, and lively Mugithi music spilled into the road.
Men gathered around rough wooden tables, sharing stories, laughter, and local brew. It was the social heart of the village.
A short distance beyond the club stood Maranga Comprehensive School, quietly preparing another generation for the future.
Across the road stood a modest Catholic church, its white walls glowing softly beneath the evening sun.
Everywhere I looked, the village blended naturally with the landscape. Farms, trees, homes, and cliffs existed in remarkable harmony.
The towering rocks, tropical vegetation, and peaceful valley created a landscape worthy of any nature documentary.
I remembered a heated argument years earlier. A friend had insisted this place was haunted.
I had argued that ordinary families had lived here peacefully for generations.
Standing there, I saw no ghosts, only hard-working people living ordinary lives beneath an extraordinary landscape.
The sun dipped lower behind the hills, painting the cliffs in amber and bronze. Time was slipping away.
Ahead, two narrow roads climbed toward the ridge. Unsure which to follow, I looked around for someone who knew the land better than I did. At the junction sat an elderly Boda Boda rider wearing a white turban. His face carried the quiet
Confidence of a man who knew every hill, every stream, and every family in the valley.
Following the elderly rider's directions, I left the village road and ventured onto a narrow footpath winding toward the foot of Maranga Ridge.
The familiar sounds of Katugu slowly faded behind me.
Here, nature ruled completely. Giant boulders, ancient trees, and tangled vines transformed the hillside into a living cathedral. Above me, monkeys called from unseen branches, while hornbills echoed across the cliffs. Every sound reminded me that I was only a visitor in this ancient landscape.
Politics, farming, football, and village gossip flowed together effortlessly. In places like this, conversation was as valuable as the drink itself.
As I continued my walk, a middle-aged man approached along the narrow path. I greeted him politely, expecting nothing more than a courteous reply.
Hello there.
He stopped, looked carefully at my face, and smiled.
Aren't you Mr. Njagi?
He asked. His words caught me completely by surprise. Although I could not remember him, he remembered me. Many years earlier, he had worked as a casual laborer during the construction of one of my buildings.
My name is Murithi, he said, extending his hand. We shook hands warmly, strangers no longer. I explained that I was searching for an old secondary school classmate named Njuki. Murithi listened carefully before nodding. There is someone by that name beyond the stream. Come, let us find out. Without hesitation, Murithi abandoned his own plans and offered to accompany me. Such generosity is one of the quiet strengths
of village life. The sunset over these hills is absolutely magnificent today. It truly is. We are lucky to call this home.
The narrow trail descended sharply into a deep valley, where loose rocks and thorny bushes tested every careful step.
At the bottom flowed a small seasonal stream, crossed by a simple wooden bridge, weathered by generations of footsteps. Beyond the bridge rose another steep hillside. I tightened my grip on my walking stick, unaware that the hardest part of the journey had only just begun.
The climb tested both body and spirit. Every step demanded patience, and every breath reminded me that the hills of
Maranga could never be conquered in haste. Murithi climbed with remarkable ease. Every few meters, he paused and smiled, allowing me to recover before continuing.
Pole. These hills reward patience.
His words carried wisdom far beyond the climb before us.
At last, the steep path leveled out. We stepped onto another quiet village road, grateful for solid ground beneath our feet. Nearby stood another small roadside gathering where villagers discussed politics, farming, and the day's events with remarkable enthusiasm.
Murithi approached one of the villagers and asked if he knew a man named Njuki. Hope quietly returned to my heart.
The villagers knew Njuki, but not the one I had traveled to find. Once again, the search ended in disappointment.
For a moment, silence settled between us. Then I realized that not every journey ends with the discovery we expect.
Before we left, one cheerful villager laughed. "You've collected information for free. At least buy us a mug next time."
I laughed with them and promised that when I returned, the first round would be mine.
The western sky had turned crimson. Darkness was descending rapidly across the valleys of Maranga. Rather than retrace our long route, Murithi suggested a shorter footpath through Masumo that crossed the Gachisiro River.
We left the road behind once more and entered a narrow forest path where trees closed around us like silent guardians.
The path plunged sharply toward the valley. Loose rocks shifted beneath my boots, and thorny bushes crowded every step. Far below, I could hear the gentle murmur of flowing water. The Gachisiro River waded in the valley,
hidden beneath a canopy of ancient trees.
At last, the trees opened before us. Hidden beneath their ancient canopy flowed the Gachisiro River, clear, peaceful, and timeless. Its gentle murmur welcomed every weary traveler who reached its banks. Spanning the quiet stream stood a modest steel footbridge. Though simple in appearance, it connected families, farms, and generations of villagers. Halfway across the bridge, I stopped. Cool air rose from the flowing water, washing away the fatigue of the long journey.
Watching the river, I was reminded that life itself is like flowing water. It never stands still, and it never returns to yesterday.
On the opposite bank, another steep climb awaited. Looking upward, I wondered how villagers conquered this hill every single day.
Every step demanded determination. My breathing grew heavier, but giving up never crossed my mind. Murithi, the man on the left, waited ahead with a reassuring smile. "Only a little further," he said. Sometimes, encouragement is the greatest gift one traveler can give another.
Along the narrow trail, we met several women returning home. Each greeted us warmly before continuing their journey through the gathering darkness.
In the village, a greeting costs nothing, yet it reminds every traveler that they belong.
At last, the steep path gave way to cultivated fields. We had reached the outskirts of Masumo. As darkness settled over the countryside, tiny lights began appearing from distant homes, like stars scattered across the valley floor. Above us, the moon climbed quietly into the African sky, transforming the countryside into another world.
Beneath a flowering jacaranda tree, Murithi stopped. It was time for our paths to separate.
I reached into my pocket to thank him, but he quietly refused. "One does not charge for walking with a friend," he said.
With one final wave, Murithi disappeared into the moonlit path. I stood for a moment,
realizing that although I had not found the friend I sought, I had discovered something even more valuable: the enduring kindness of ordinary people. The final stretch of my journey was mine alone. The village road lay silent beneath the moonlight, yet I no longer felt like a solitary traveler. As I approached my village, familiar landmarks emerged from the darkness. Home was no longer a destination, it was a welcome embrace. I reached my gate, paused for a moment, and looked back toward Maranga Ridge. Though hidden by darkness, I knew it was still watching over the valley. My body was tired, my shoes carried the red dust of embu, and my walking stick bore fresh scratches from the thorny paths. With a warm cup of tea in my hands, I settled onto the veranda. Sometimes the greatest luxury is simply having time to reflect.
I had set out in search of exercise. Instead, I had discovered something far more meaningful. Nature had become my classroom, and the
People I met had become my teachers.
For years, I had admired Maranga Ridge from a distance. Only by walking its paths did I truly begin to understand its character. Of all the memories I carried home, one remained brightest: the kindness of people who expected nothing in return.
I had hoped to find my old classmate, Njuki. Instead, the search remained unfinished. Yet I felt no disappointment. Some journeys are meant to continue. Villages like Katugu hold treasures that cannot be measured in money.
They preserve stories, traditions, friendships, and a way of life that deserves to be remembered.
Walking slows the body but awakens the mind. Along quiet roads, every tree, every greeting, and every footstep becomes part of a larger story. That evening I felt grateful for good health, for the beauty of my homeland, and for the strangers who had quietly become friends.
We often imagine adventure lies beyond distant mountains or foreign lands. Yet sometimes it begins just beyond our own doorstep. Every path tells a story. Every hill guards a memory. And every journey leaves the traveler a little wiser than before. My walk to Maranga Ridge had ended, but its lessons would remain with me forever.
Sometimes, the greatest discoveries are not the places we visit, but the people we meet and the person we become along the way.